What's up YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. Why did I move here to Minnesota? And what does Minnesota have that all other states don't? Find out here on this video, Pinoy Abroad.
Just me and you.
So guys, I've visited so many states in the past years. Been to Florida, California, been to Ohio, Kentucky, all these states in the Midwest, and I could say that among all these states, Minnesota stands out the best for me. So I want to share you the reasons why I really love this state. What made Minnesota stand out among other states here in the United States? Well, if you did not know, Minnesota's always been in the top 10. If you go to Google and type in US News and then type in best states to live in, Minnesota's always in the top 10. It never comes off of the top 10. Now Minnesota is on the top 3, but then Minnesota has always been in the top 10 ever since. Last year Minnesota was in top 2. Now it came down to top 3, but it's always there, guys. Naglalaro lang siya sa top 2, top 3, and then it never comes off. Hindi siya naaalis doon because Minnesota has a lot of things that it can offer to its citizen, and that's the reason why Minnesota is one of the best states, ranked as one of the best states to live in. Let's talk about cost of living and standard of living, guys. The cost of living here in Minnesota is not as bad. I admit that Minnesota is one of the expensive states to live in, but even then, guys, Minnesota is still about 10 to 15% cheaper than Chicago. I lived in Chicago for 10 years, and I could say, guys, that talagang mas mahal sa Chicago compared dito. And the taxes over there, it's just way up, just napakamahal. Over here, there's not even a tax when you're buying food. You're buying it off of the grocery store. If you're buying clothes, shoes, you're not getting taxed for that. In Chicago and all other states, you might get taxed for everything that you do, for every transaction that you make. A CNA from Chicago moved here because he said that he was getting $5 more here than what he would get in Chicago. And I totally agree, because when I moved here, guys, the rate for nurses in Chicago is like $5 less per hour. We're talking about per hour than the rate that you get here in Minnesota. So yun, mataas ang sahod, yung cost of living medyo mababa ng konti kumpara sa ibang mga states. So there's a good balance. That's the problem with other states, guys, is that they don't have that good balance, and that's why nahihirapan yung mga tao doon. I know some Filipinos, they move to United States. When they get here, they complain about the life here in United States kasi hindi nila kayang mabuhay na mag-isa lang. Kailangan talaga nila ng family member or relative na tutulong sa kanila sa mga bills. Over here in Minnesota, what I can say is that kung ako lang, guys, personally, I think I can support my family with just my sahod ko lang, kahit na hindi mag-work yung asawa ko. But then the question is, makakapag-save kaya ako? Probably not. But the bottom line is, kaya mo, because may good balance nga. Yung good balance na tinutukoy ko dyan is the balance between the cost of living and the wage. Kahapon, guys, we went to a restaurant. We got some gyros and then 2 servings of gyros, one for my wife and for myself, and also some sides like salad, and we spent about $22. Kung yung amount ng food na yon, that kind of food we bought it in Chicago, we probably spent about $25, because Chicago is a little bit expensive, about 10 to 15%. Gaya nga na sinabi ko. It's not a big deal kasi 10% lang. Ano lang ang 10% ng $10, diba? It's only like about $1. But then when you're spending more than that, when you're spending about more than hundreds, like thousands of dollars, that's when it makes a difference, because 10 or 15% out of 1,000 is already $150. Imagine how much you can save if you lived here and you're getting paid more than what you're getting paid in other states. So laking tipid nga, diba? Yun nga, guys, yung cost of living, the bottom line is the cost of living here is really affordable compared to other states. Even though they say it's a little bit expensive than other states. Kasi pag sinabi kasi may mga states kasi mura. Let's say a hamburger costs like about $2 over there. Over here, let's say sabihin natin $3 ang isang hamburger. But then binabayaran ka lang naman doon sa state na yun, ang minimum wage nila is $10, $9 an hour. Dito $15 per hour. So kahit mag-hamburger ka everyday, hindi ka maubusan. That's what I mean. May balance siya. So what else does Minnesota have that makes it stand out among other states? Well, another one to mention is the quality of life. The quality of life here in Minnesota just stands out because I think Minnesota is number 2 as far as quality of life. And there's just a lot of things to do here in Minnesota. There's a lot of things to do in the winter, from winter to the summer. There's kayaking, canoeing, biking. Minnesota is considered to be one of the most healthiest states because a lot of bikers go out biking in the summer, and a lot of people are engaged in many activities like snowboarding, skiing, cross-country skiing, and many other winter sports. So hindi sila naboboard dito, guys, because there's so much stuff to do all year long, whether it's summer, whether it's winter, whether it's spring, or whether it's fall. And again, talking about quality of life, the air here is the freshest, the water is the cleanest. It's just, I mean, don't get me wrong, we don't have Disneyland here like Florida and California, but then we sure do have a lot of things to brag about that we can compare to other states. Alright guys, now let's talk about healthcare, guys. Well, Minnesota can brag about its healthcare because it's got a good funding when it comes to its public aid. So public aid is an aid for the citizens who cannot afford to buy their own healthcare insurance. Also, Minnesota is well known to have the best doctors, the best healthcare providers, nurses, surgeons especially. Also, Minnesota has the best hospitals in the country. Especially Mayo Clinic. Mayo Clinic is the #1 hospital, not only in United States, guys, but #1 hospital in the whole world. Another thing that makes Minnesota stand out is that it's one of the best states to raise a family. Why? I don't know. Maybe it's because of the culture here. Maybe it's because the people are nice here. Maybe it's because of the quality of life. Or maybe it's because of the education system. It could be a number of factors. But it's one of the best states to raise a family. Gusto ko sa lugar, guys, is medyo parang provincial type siya. Maraming puno, maraming, you know, I'm more drawn into nature. So I like natural things. I like trees, I like grasses. I like the feel of probinsya. I like that kind of feel. At the same time, I like a place where everything that you need is there. And that's Minnesota. Minnesota, if you come here, it may look like para siyang probinsya sa Pilipinas, but then it's got a good skyline, may downtown siya, and it has a lot of things that you need. I came from Chicago for 10 years, like I said, and Chicago was like a bigger city. When I came to Minnesota, it looks so laid back to me, and I thought I couldn't find everything that I found in Chicago, but then I was surprised that everything that was in Chicago was also here. So there was nothing I could find in Chicago that I couldn't find here in Minnesota. And that's the nice thing. Para siyang probinsya, pero nandito na lahat. You got the best healthcare, you got the best hospitals here, best quality of life, people are nice. I mean, what else could I ask for, guys? This is just the best state for me. Alright guys, so now let's talk about opportunity. Well, Minnesota has a lot of opportunities out there, guys. You name it. It comes to nurses, doctors, physical therapists, engineers, ITs, and not only professional guys, even like simple jobs like construction worker, stuff like a salesman, sales lady. Whether it's just a simple job, a dirty job, a white collar job, you name it, there's always jobs. When my wife came here to Minnesota, she didn't have a hard time looking for a job because jobs were just right there. As a matter of fact, guys, Minnesota is one of the states that has the lowest unemployment rate. We're even lower than the national average unemployment rate. Just imagine. Alright guys, so now how about safety, guys? How safe is Minnesota? Well, you can be pretty much confident that you'll be safe here in Minnesota unless you live in those places where there are higher crime rates. It can be tricky at times because there are areas, every state has an area where there's really high crime rate. Over here in Minnesota, as long as you just do your research and don't live in those places where there are higher crime rates, then you should be fine. But overall, I think I'm more confident living here than in Chicago because I've been around here for quite a while and just go around with my cell phone, expensive stuff, with my camera and stuff. And you can be pretty much confident walking around with your Louis Vuitton purse or something and not worry about getting robbed or anything like that. There were times where I left my cell phone somewhere and I came back and it was still there. I left my bike, I came back, it was still there. So I didn't really have any bad experience as far as safety. And neighbors here are really nice and helpful. So I think it's a pretty safe place to live in. So guys, those are the top reasons why I moved here to Minnesota, and those are the reasons that make Minnesota stand out among other states. I hope I gave you a good idea about what Minnesota is based on my experience and based on research. And I hope you continue watching my video, continue to support my channel by hitting that subscribe button, and not only the subscribe button, but most importantly the bell button. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I'll see you on my next video. Peace out.